Welcome to the Claws Out podcast. We are live here at the Mic'd Up studio in Parramatta, joined by the two Robs and Gary. 48 hours after the West Tigers 32-6 loss to the New Zealand Warriors on Friday night at Campbelltown Stadium. But Rob, first off, you made not a cameo, but another appearance on West Tigers Life on Thursday. It was timely given the Luai breaking news. Did big numbers. Yeah,
well, I wasn't meant to be on there, nor was Gary, but it turned out that the news had broken about Luai, and Josh and Shane asked if we'd come on as well as Adel to break it down. And we got over 3,700 views, so very happy with the response to that. Unfortunately, for all the wrong reasons, though, we don't like controversy within the club. But yeah, really big numbers for that show. Yeah,
great job by the boys. Gary, you were out there as well as senior on Friday night. Steve speculated on Tuesday that it might be a pro-Warriors crowd. What was it like out there?
I reckon it was probably around that 50-50 mark. I wouldn't say there was more Warrior fans, but they did have that big chunk of people down in that corner that were very, very loud during the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if it came across on TV as being probably more Warriors, sounding like there was more Warriors, because they did have that big chunk of support in the corner.
Junior, it's good to see you first.
Likewise.
You must be fresh. You haven't been making a lot of appearances lately, but filling a hole for us tonight. No Steve. What did you make of Friday night, your main emotion coming out of that game?
Yeah, I was pretty gutted. That's pretty much season done. I felt like if we could have somehow managed to win, it makes up for the loss against St George, and mathematically we're still a chance at finals, but just another year down the drain, so pretty gutted after that one.
You, Senior?
Yeah, probably a good way to put it, another year down the drain. Mine was actually deja vu of hopelessness. It's just like, here we go again, where what are we playing for now? Like, even if we win every game, I'm not sure if we can make it. Our for and against is horrible. It's just a poor way to have the club go backwards. And, firstly it was Galvin last year. This year it's Luai, whoever's fault it is. We just got to put up with it. I don't know how you're meant to get through it, but we've been through it all before. What about you, Gary?
That's a big point for me, Rob. It's a season being thrown away again and again and again. It's what we do every year. It's the same position our club ends up in almost every season. And to be honest, Eddie and I have spoken over the years, and he's always telling me he's looking forward to the season being over. And I always push back on him because I love football. I want to watch football. This is the first time in my life where I'm looking for the season to be over, because I'm just sick of our club throwing seasons away, and we do it every single year.
When you say throwing it away, what specifically are you referencing? You're referencing the mid-season dramas?
Yeah, and it tends to be something going on in our club every single year that kind of destroys our season in the middle of the year, and we don't come back from it. And like, I'm sitting here right now not knowing whether we'll win another game this year, and I'm just had a gutful of our club ending up in this position every year.
All right, well, we're going to spend probably 10 or 15 minutes talking about Jerome, because that's all the news at the moment, but we will dive into the game. But let's start on a positive. Junior, you're like a Tiger moment from Friday night.
Yeah, mine was Jared Hayward getting his debut. I think we were all anticipating it to come a little bit earlier in the season when Tristan Hope filled in for Appy throughout that suspension, but I think it was just good to see him. Thought he had a really strong game and bright signs for the future there.
Remember Robbie Farah's debut at Leichhardt Oval in 2003. Different style of player, but geez, he was impressive.
Yeah, I thought his first half was exceptional. We got a burst of energy when he came on the field. He started getting the forwards moving onto the front foot. He was engaging the markers from dummy half as well. It just looked like he'd been doing it all his life. Second half, he did nothing wrong, but he didn't have that same impetus that he did in the first half. But wonderful debut. I think he made 33 tackles, 3 missed. He was really the main shining light, or the only shining light of Friday night.
I'm not sure if the plan was to play him for that long, but he had such an impact in the game. I actually thought he changed the momentum in the game for us in that first half.
Yeah, the way he was getting our front rowers, and our front rowers especially, but all our forwards onto the ball, he actually has a really nice long ball out of dummy half that gets nice in front of those guys coming onto the ball. I thought he was outstanding in that regard. Very strong defensively, 3 tackles for such a small guy. What he does need to work on, and it's going to come with time, the only fault I have on him is that he was targeted in defence a little bit, and being a slight guy, being a young guy, he was kind of pushed back quite easily in that. But that's what I'd expect from a guy of his age coming in, making his debut. I thought he was absolutely outstanding, and we've got a real prospect there.
Like a Tiger moment, Rob?
A bit of a negative like a Tiger moment. Mine was late in the game when Jerome Luai made a beautiful break, ran through, and had no one with him. And I think that just sums up things on the field and on the field. Like, everyone's a bit one out. There's no one supporting everyone, and it seems a little bit that way off the field at the moment. So I just thought that was pretty typical, like a Tiger moment.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Sam Fainu. There's a couple of moments I could go for. He scored a try, but I'm going to take late in the first half. He did a hit up close to our line and was carrying 4 or 5 players with him. That for me is Sam Fainu. What he brings to our team cannot be measured, and it was great to see him back on the field. And hopefully that groin injury he's picked up isn't too severe, and we see him back again really soon.
Did you have an overall take on the game before we talk about Jerome? Because it looked like the first 20 minutes we might get beat by 80, but then in the 10 minutes leading into half-time, I'm always positive, Rob.
I love it.
It was 14-6, and it looked like we were coming to get them, and we just couldn't get over the line then, and then the second half was a bit flat.
Well, I think after it looked like we were going to get beat by 80, you mentioned that in the group chat, so that was
increasing the number.
That was my quick leave the chat moment. Yeah, look, I think my overall take from that game just shows that we really, really need an attacking coach, because I think our middles have dropped off from the start of the year. I think they were so strong. We absolutely smashed the Warriors pack the first time we versed them this year. I think they're a bit deflated knowing that they could play a perfect game, and when we use our edges, there's just no points, there's no good shape, there's no red zone attack. So I think, yeah, we definitely need an attacking coach.
We'll dive into our attack as well, but Rob, at 14-6, there were a couple of moments there. It looked like if we did manage to get across the line, belief might have grown.
Definitely. At 14-0, it looked like we had no energy as a unit. As I said earlier, when Hayward came on the field, it seemed to pick up. And then obviously when we scored the try, we really did have our bounce back. But we showed we had no idea how to get, over the try line. And I'm not being facetious here. I've mentioned in a couple of group chats, I'm actually shocked that, having watched the NRLW game yesterday, that they actually run shape better than us. And I don't mean like design. I actually mean execution, speed of passing, catching. They were brilliant. It doesn't always come off, but you can tell they have practiced that over and over again, and you can see they've put the work in. I don't see our shape looking like we've done much work on it at all. I think it's just like a byproduct of training. I don't think we'd practice it very well and do it with intent.
The hard thing for me is you have a look at our red zone. We've had plenty of time in the red zone in the last 3 weeks. I don't know the stats on it, but it's been massive amount of time. And what have we walked away with? Is it 4 tries, 3 tries or something? We're less than 30 points in the last 3 games, and we have had enough red zone opportunities to win all those games. That's what we need to get sorted out. That's our biggest weakness at the moment. And it's frustrating because it's been our biggest weakness for, the last 5 years.
And the lone try came from the New Zealand right centre dropping the ball over the line. It wasn't like we created anything special.
All right, well, big news dropped on Saturday. I guess what everyone already knew, that Jerome Luai will be departing the club at the end of 2026. There was an article in the Daily Telegraph today, I believe written by David Riccio, which referenced West Tigers TV and had a few quotes from myself, I believe from last Sunday night's show, Claws Out. We'll talk about the article in a minute, but Junior, first off, is it the right decision to let him go at the end of this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you put into perspective what we're trying to do with re-signing Samuela and extending Latu as well, we need the cap space from what's been reported. I don't see how it's going to free cap space now that every club in the NRL knows that we need that. I don't think anyone's going to voluntarily pay one of his $1.2 million. I think when he signed with PNG, I actually mentioned on the pod, I kind of wish he was leaving for next year, so that way we can give Latu the full preseason and just throw him in the deep end in that respect. Look, he offers a lot to our team. We're definitely going to have a downgrade in terms of what he can do in attack and defence, but I think Latu's the future.
The issue I have with that is we need to make semi-final football next year, and I think releasing Jerome Luai at this point on the field makes that harder. That's ignoring issues that we may have off the field at the moment. On the field, not having Jerome Luai in our side next year makes us getting in the top 8 harder. And I agree fully. I have massive raps on Latu. The problem is we've had 10 opportunities this year to play him in the halves in first grade. We haven't. We've had all this season to develop him as a half, even playing him in reserve grade at halfback. We haven't. So we're now going with a guy that we've played at lock for bits and piece minutes, at hooker that he's not an appropriate choice for to start with. And that's what we're running with next year. I think we've we've missed a real opportunity for his development this year. And he's going into next year, in my opinion, underdone because we didn't manage him properly this year.
You can add right centre to that too after Friday night as well.
We have missed an opportunity, but I think the thing that everyone's forgetting is we started the year 5-2. Jock Madden was part of, as much as I think Latu should have been there instead of Jock. Jock was there for 3 of those wins. On top of that, Latu was injured, so he didn't get a full preseason with the team. He actually wasn't available until round.
I think he came back at the same time as Jock. I think he was on the bench for round 3.
So, it was a bit hard. Plus, we also needed him to kind of, like, Jock's never going to play that hooker role to relieve Appy. So I think Benji saw it fit for Latu to be there. So
all this blew up more than 2 weeks ago. It blew up before the St. George game. I think that's fairly common knowledge. We went into the St. George game with Jock Madden still playing halfback.
But again, we had a 3 out of 3 win rate with Jock and Adam in the halves. It's Adam's first game back. You need a win against St. George. It is St. George. I understand it's probably the right time to play Latu, but at the same time, from a coaching perspective, Benji's probably thinking, well, the last time Adam played in the side, Jock was in the halves with him, or he had just played a game with Luai, whatever it was.
What's Jock's form been like for the last month?
I don't think it's been great. I thought he should have been dropped a month ago. But I think because of Adam coming back, if Adam hadn't have been coming back, hypothetically, and say, you had to choose between Jock playing with Luai or Latu playing with Luai, I think he would have gone with Latu. But I think the fact that most of Adam's football this year has been with Jock, in a must-win game, he wanted an established combination rather than you go with Adam.
I hadn't thought of the way Robbie had just put it then. Bob, it's good that you've said it because you've actually given me some confidence. The fact that we were 5-2 pretty much with Jock, I know Luai was there for the first couple of games. I know Latu can do a better job than Jock, and we still had a good record. So you've actually given me some hope, Robbie, that I'd never actually considered. Shows we didn't compare notes before we sat down, because that's a great point.
What about the article by Dave Riccio today, Rob? I believe he spoke to you in the lead up to that article, because I don't want to say we broke the news because we're not media, but you said on Tuesday that this could happen. I believe Adel informed you that it could happen.
Yeah, Adel mentioned it to us on Tuesday, and we speculated about it on Tuesday night, and then obviously Dave's seen Tuesday's show. He texted me, actually, he didn't speak to me, and he just said, can I run with what you guys spoke about, and wanted to know everything about you. And sent me a photo of you, and I said,
his research wasn't too great.
Who was that bloke that was giving it to Jerome Luai the other day with you on the show? I said, that was Eddie Otto.
Yeah, so, I was horrified when I saw quotes from me in the article. But Junior, I don't know if we've had you on since, we might have, but the Instagram post itself, because I don't step back from that. I still thought that was poor. There is some added context I will add to that. If Jerome was told before that game, which he obviously was, that he wasn't going to be part of the club the next year, I can see the fact that he would be angry, and that explains it a little more. But I still thought from a captaincy perspective, 5 minutes after full time, that would have pissed some players off and possibly Benji off.
Yeah, 100%. I think I didn't get to watch the show, but I did see the clips posted on our socials, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that post with what it meant. That was his way of, F you to anyone that thinks that someone else can do a job that I'm here to do. I think the other thing, everyone loves to talk about Jerome's $1.2 million price tag when they criticise him. You got to look at it from Jerome's point of view as well with the insult. If he was told before the St. George game, I'm running with Jock, because now I'm starting to be a bit conspiracy theorist. Like, was he actually concussed? Or did Benji say, I don't want to drop you publicly. I want you to kind of sit out because I want to run with Jock and Adam again.
We're guessing, aren't we?
We're guessing, but I'm saying if that's, something that I'm guessing, then to me, Jerome's going to be pretty offended by that. You think someone that's on 250K, 200 of which is being paid by the premiers to play for the Tigers, can do a better job than me, and then you produce what Jock and Adam produced. Well, Adam was great against St. George, but what Jock produced against St. George, 100% he'd be pissed off. And we all know Jerome's not going to shy away from giving everyone a big fuck you.
The fact that there's been stories about a fever come out since he wasn't actually at the St. George game. So not only did he not play, he wasn't at the St. George game. And there's been reports that the club's told journalists that he was out with that he had a fever on Saturday. So
well, a fever is a symptom of, like, I've had 8 concussions, and after
we can tell.
Yeah, for about 4 or 5 of them, I did have a fever and throwing up.
I wish I had concussions watching us team play every week.
Mate, they give me a concussion every time I watch them play.
But apparently quite emotional after the game, Jerome. I wasn't out there, but he wasn't at the press conference, which is understandable because they would have got absolutely bombarded, I think.
Yeah, privately he was distraught. I mean, I was told post-game that he was crying after the game and in a really bad way, but I didn't think he was overly poor on Friday night. In fact, I thought he and Taruva, guys that have been questioned, bought the energy from the get-go. I mean, if you look at Fisher Harris's first try, he scored the try and spoke down to Luai and gave him a gobful because when we'd received the penalty that Adam failed to find for touch, Jerome Luai was sticking it to the New Zealand players and walking in their face. He was up for the game, as was Taruva pre-game. And I remember sitting next to my son, Brendan, at the game, and I said, Jerome and Tito look really up for this. So he didn't, throw the toys out of the cot or anything. He showed up and, look, he made a couple of mistakes. Like there was a grubber kick on the third tackle he tried to put through for Sione that probably wasn't the wisest thing in the world at 14-6 down with a few minutes left in the first half. And I could probably single out another couple of things like you could with any player on the field. But he gave it his all on Friday night and he's a true professional.
Why can't we have, I don't know, if maybe this is an amicable breakup, but it's not really because other clubs seem to have players that are moving on at the end of the year and they're able to play out the year without drama. I mean, Jerome was under contract next year, but he's not going to be here. You saw with Galvin last year, it all blew up. Does this club break people?
Can I blame our previous management for this?
You can do whatever you want.
Because the way they've lined up everyone's contracts, I mean, we bought Latu over, then Jerome came available, so we signed Jerome. Then Adam's form at the end of last year played himself into the half spot. Jerome's only been asked to leave a year early because we've got Latu and Javon playing in Cup and they're playing pretty well.
But surely it's more than that. Like you can say Latu, but like it's not like no disrespect to Latu, he could be a next superstar, but we don't know. Surely,
no, but it's not just that. I think once you know someone's going and they're going in 2 seasons.
Why Parramatta signing him for a season?
Well, why did Parramatta sign Jonah Pezzett? And now they've got Volkman and Papali or whatever he is doing well in the halves. And then they're like, well, do we bring Pezzett back? Like he's going to Brisbane next year. Who gives a shit about Pezzett anymore? I mean, a lot of teams make that mistake with people having a stopover year. I think that's why we didn't want to sign Connor Watson because we didn't want him to be a stopover for us next year. No,
we offered him a long term.
We're like the bottom line is we're a shit club. We've been unsuccessful for 15 years. We've spoken about rebuild after rebuild, 5-year plan after 5-year plan. We need to get things right, and having someone play next season to improve our chance of making finals next year. No, I'd prefer to trust our coaching staff with a full preseason, with a team they know is going to be there for the next till 2030 and get it right with
I guess I'm asking though, like, do you think Benji, okay, yes, he wants to develop Latu, but do you think he also looked at it and go, Jerome's going to be too big of a distraction? Not necessarily because of his personality, but headlines follow him.
Can I use a Dells line? Like, I don't know what goes on in the four walls. Like, I think that to an extent there's some credit in that, some merit in that. Like, maybe that's what he is thinking. I don't think him signing with PNG. We'll talk about it later because I've seen the run sheet. But like, I don't think Jerome's plans for the future have affected how we're playing. So I think
the club was hurt when he signed with PNG, and this is simply a monetary decision. That's it. I'm sure there's been a bust up, behind the four walls with someone. I'm not going to say who or with or whatever, but it's about money. If Jerome was on a cheap price, we'd keep him. But I'm like Gary. I don't want our 2027 to be hindered by it. I want our 2027 to be an opportunity to really make finals and beyond. And as much as I rate Latu, I don't think it's a step up having Latu there compared to someone that's won 4 premierships. I think that's just a logical thing to say, and I love Latu.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think I've said that already.
Yeah, I said I agreed with you.
Yeah. I know it's on the run sheet a little bit later. We don't know what that combination with Latu and AD is going to look like. There's so much up in the air now going into next season when we need to be a club that's building, and what this does is it takes us a step back again. And you spoke about 5-year plan after 5-year plan, and I know we had to do it anyway because Jerome's leaving. But again, we're just back at that rebuilding spot again. We're starting a plan again, and I've had enough of that.
Is this where not having someone like Richo's maybe starting to bite us on the arse? Because there was a whole heap of drama in the off-season with Holman Barnes, and it all settled down when we started winning games and started the season well. But I'm not pinning this on Sean or Benji or anything, but I just think maybe looking at the next couple of years, I'm a little bit concerned that we don't have that that real prick running our club that I think we need.
Well, I think the only thing that's gone wrong for us is Jerome signing with PNG. But I think regardless of who the CEO is, even if Richo was here, wouldn't have changed it. So
I think it would have.
Yeah, there was
you
rumours.
think he would have stayed had Richo had been here?
There were rumours late last year, November, early December last year, that those clauses were about to come out of his
Thank you.
contract.
Just about to say
all right,
that.
fair enough. But let's say he gets rid of the clauses, right? And he pulls a rabbit out of the hat, gets rid of the clauses, and then PNG want to,
But we don't let him entertain that. We don't let him even fly to New Guinea.
He was always going to wait to April. Jerome's not an idiot.
But if the clauses are out,
the
that's
reason the clauses are in Jerome's contract is because he's smart and he's well advised. He was always going to wait to April, and the reason he put these clauses in wasn't because he gives a shit about being at a shit club. He's just signed with the Chiefs. He's going to an even shitter club. Like, the clauses were there because he knew in April there would be an opportunity for him to grab more money with either Perth or PNG. No administrator was going to stop that.
I actually think over the off-season, I think he had every intention of doing out his 5 years. I think there's some things that happened early this season that made him rethink that. But I think during that January, December period, I think if we hadn't made massive changes at our club, I think there's every chance those clauses get removed from that contract. That was the information I had at the time, is that was very close to actually happening.
I had the same information.
What do you think made him rethink it? Well, 5-2 when he signed.
Yeah, I actually think, to be honest, that time when Madden and AD were in the side, the amount of crap that was going on around the club, around him, and I don't think he's reacted well to that. I don't think he took that very well. And there's a big part of me that fully believes that it made him feel unwelcome at the club from certain supporters.
And it's not only that, guys, but it's not only that. It's the fact that, and it's like, again, I'm not, in no way am I disrespecting Sean, okay? I think Sean's just been there for a week and a half, okay? So we can't blame anything on Sean. Sean was made interim. No one was doing anything. Terrell May was meant to have been re-signed around the same time that Gary's talking about. Doreen Buller. Everything stopped. Nothing was going on. So there was no one there to actually, make those decisions about taking clauses out or signing players up. It was basically, everything was sort of on hold, and we're really trusting Benji, Shannon and Sean to sort this out at the right time. But all those contract talks and clauses being taken out were stopped because the CEO was removed. So it's not Sean's fault and it's not Jerome's fault, but definitely things stopped progressing when that happened, and we might have been able to talk him out of it.
And in saying that, I don't think we would have signed all the players that we've re-signed if Jerome was staying in 2028. I don't think we had the money to do that. I think we're still tight around the salary cap now. That's why we're looking at that's probably why it's so attractive to let him go now. But we don't get to this mess of this season if those clauses are still in the contract.
Could you say that PNG move, which is probably nearly 3 months ago now, did derail our season? Or could you say at least potentially it had a role to play? Because I brushed it off like Rob and Gary and the boys, probably because of our injury toll. It coincided with a mass injury toll. But like, we've got some troops back over the last month and we're playing our worst football of the season.
Yeah, I think it's just completely coincidental with the timing of the injuries. If you look at who we lost through that Raiders game, which then went out into the Sharks game, we were 12-10 down when Adam got injured in the Sharks game, I think. Was it?
Yeah,
so
we were in the 10-6
or something. Like we were
10-6.
2 points behind, and then Adam hurt himself with his shoulder scoring that try. Once you take away any team's halfback, I mean, that was always going to be a tough ask. Then factor in the fact that Samuela got injured in that Sharks game as well. You got Sione playing on an edge for the next 8 weeks, who is respectfully one of the worst edge defenders because he's a prop. Like, he shouldn't be a good edge defender. I don't think the noise affected our playing group. I think it affected our fans. I think I've said it before. I think our fans are just as bad as, the Canterbury fans when it comes to being critical of our players.
But that's 15 years of frustration
it is
too. You
15
can't
years of
blame
frustration.
everyone.
I'm not blaming them for having an opinion, but when Jock, we won 3 games in a row, we're 5-2, and the first thing some of the fans are doing, and it's only like 10-15% of them, but messaging Jerome Luai, Jock Madden's better than you, leave our club, we don't need you, this, that, just idiots.
Look, I agree with you. I think the injuries are what caused the downturn in the season. I don't think Jerome had anything to do with that. His decision to go to PNG, I don't think it impacted on that. What I do think it had an impact is it led to the conversation about releasing him. And for me, That's what stopped us from saving our season. That's what stopped us from performing well against St. George and winning a game that we definitely should have won. So and the Newcastle game as well was there to be won. So I think the decision for him to leave didn't derail our season. I think the injuries derailed our season. But that decision rolling into our decision releasing him caused us not to be able to save it.
Well, I mention it, Rob, because that sort of thing can cause fractures in the dressing room, because Jerome would have been a big part in building that culture and bringing some of those players perhaps to the club. And you don't want to get to a point where you got some guys on Jerome's side or whatnot, because that's something I worry about, particularly for the rest of this season in some of the players' performances.
Yeah, look, there were some players the other night that played a 180-degree game like Adam's been sensational every week since he's been moved into the halves, and I thought he was abominable last Friday night, and I love him. I think he's my favourite player, as I've mentioned a number of times. Met his parents last week, lovely people, so it's not a nice thing to say, but I'm just being honest. If I criticise Royce Hunt or Fanua Bole or any of those guys, I can criticise someone for playing a bad game. I thought some of his kicks were awful. His defence was woeful. He missed 6 tackles. He didn't look engaged in the game. Put us behind the 8 ball, not finding a kick for touch early in the game. Maybe it's affected Adam. And then, I don't know if you're going to talk about it or not, but what he said in the press conference about Jerome, I don't know if it was just by accident or poor wording. I just felt it was a shot at Jerome. And I don't know if there's any fracture there, but to say that, if Jerome had hit Hamasi, we might have got back into the game, when if you're watching the game, it's clearly Macassini's fault for not hitting that hole and being in a better position to catch that ball. Like, I just wouldn't have even mentioned that incident. I just would have said, we had a few chances to get back in the game at 14-6 and leave it there. But to say that about your captain in the press conference when you've had a really poor game, that's not good form.
Your take on that press conference? Because someone mentioned it in our chat afterward, and I went and had a look at it. And originally I thought, it's just Adam saying Jerome hit him and we didn't create. But he did say that he essentially missed him. I didn't think there was much in it. You did.
Usually I would say, it's just a footballer's poor choice of words, but I know Adam, and Adam's a smart kid and very well educated. So I think word for word he said they were asking him what's going wrong, even though he hadn't been playing lately and whatever. What does he put it down to? And he said moments. He said one of those moments is we had the opportunity to score a try. He goes, Jerome passes to Jerome passes to Hamasi. He probably catches it and scores there. So he kind of insinuated, had Jerome have passed to Hamasi as correctly, if he didn't intend to pass to him, where I thought he always intended to pass to him. It was just Hamasi who didn't hit the hole. That's just something that I don't think any leader would say. Like, just leave the answer at moments. Like, you don't actually point. Like, that's for you, Benji, the leadership and the playing group to deal with behind closed doors. I don't think the media needs to know about that.
A couple of things on that. The pass was where the hole was. So the pass was fine. And even where the pass was, Macassini shouldn't have dropped that pass. It was out in front of him. It hit his hand. That's a pass I want my centres to take most of the time. But as a leader, I've got no problems with him saying we're poor in moments. When you've had the game that Adam had on Friday night, there's plenty of your own moments that you can use to highlight. A moment is not finding touch off a penalty kick. That is a crucial error in that game, and it really gave them.
They scored a try from it a few tackles later. Fisher Harris.
You want to highlight a moment in that game as a leader, you highlight your own moment. You don't single out a guy who is under the pump at our club at the moment, who rumours are swirling around is about to be let go by the club. You make a better choice about what you want to highlight. That was really poor in my opinion.
But that probably goes back to what you're talking about of are there relationships that's fractured?
The Instagram stuff. Maybe Adam, I don't want to speculate because we don't know, but they're both alpha personalities.
But that's what I mean. Maybe like we are speculating. Yeah. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I read someone on Twitter who I don't know who they know or whatever, but they said that they've heard that Adam and Jerome aren't on good terms and neither are Jerome and Benji. I've got no idea whether that's true or not. Doesn't it? But what I'm trying to say is if you're saying something like that in the press conference, then that makes those rumours that, people could be talking shit or not, but that makes those rumours seem like they are somewhat true.
Trying to end on a positive note on Jerome, because it's going to be a tough 6 or 8 weeks for him because we're not going to play finals and Tigers fans can be quite opinionated in the grandstands and on social media. But, I'd like to thank him for coming to the club and trying. He did come to a 3-time wooden spoon club. I know he got paid a bucket load of money and that's why he come here. But I think he probably underestimated just how bigger job or bigger rebuild this was here and some of the things he might run into. But I know the media will spin it as probably a failure because he's going to leave after 2 years and we haven't played finals. But I still think it was a signing that was worthwhile at the time and to a degree has elevated the club.
History shows that if you come to the West Tigers, you don't improve. Okay, that's history. That's not having a shot at anyone who's there right now. I can go back over many years, going back to the great Adam Blair, okay, who was like the gun forward for the Melbourne Storm at the time. So it's not on Jerome.
Scapegoat,
but when he came to us, he gave us credibility, as I said a few nights ago on a podcast. He gave the team belief. And most importantly, not that it's worth $1.2 million, he got us off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not wooden spooners anymore. And he's great to play football with. He brings a lot of energy to practice and the field. And you could see him the other night. You could actually see him after, we scored a try, turning around to certain players and trying to G them up. I love the bloke. I'm just sad it hasn't worked out because I thought when we signed him, it was one of the best things ever. Not only what I've mentioned, but he attracted other players to the club or people wanting to be there to play with him. And now that he's gone, do other players want to come to our club given, they think, well, man, this guy's won 4 premierships and even he couldn't do something.
Gave the Tigers relevance as well. Just relevance.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant by credibility.
Yeah.
Relevance is probably a better word. You're correct. So I got no knock on it. Will it be deemed a failure? Absolutely, it'll be deemed a failure. But if you maybe look back in 12 months from now after he's left, I think that's when you'll decide what did he really give us and what didn't he give us. But, yeah, you have to call it a failure right now.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to say, but part of whether it's successful or not comes down to what happens after he leaves. Like if we revert back to where we were, then it's been an utter failure in my opinion. If we continue to build on the culture side of stuff that he's implemented and we start to improve on the field, then I don't think it really matters that he came and went. It's probably an advantage for our club. But if we revert back to where we were 18 months ago, then I think that shows that it probably didn't work for us at all.
Back to Friday night, Junior. The attack. We'll deep dive that because 3 games in a row, 6 points, 10 points, 6 points. I think that's 4 tries in 3 weeks. What on earth has gone wrong with our attack?
I just think our red zone attack, like it has been all this year, is just still crap. We scored a try off a kick to the middle of the post and they mishandled the ball. And we were just in the right place at the right time. There doesn't look to be any type of threat when we run our shape. When we run our shape as well, I've always been critical of our lead runners, always running the wrong hole, the sweeper out the back always being too deep or too far in rather than wider. There's no switch before we run our block sweep shape or anything like that just to hold up the defensive line. We've been critical of Adam's game on Friday, and I'll add to that. I think every time he got the ball and we had some sort of shape set, the shape was that bad where I think he felt he actually just had to run because people aren't in the right place at the right time. I've always said it. I said it to Adel in the chat. I know he disagreed earlier in the year, but a half is only as good as their runners. If the runners are in the wrong place, a half can't make them look good. Take the Jerome Luai ball to Makasini. Makasini's not in the hole.
So is this on coaching or individual players getting the right spot?
I think it's on coaching. I think, and added to coaching, it is personnel as well. I think any half that has Stafford Toa with an injury at right centre and then Sione Fainu as your right back rower, who respectfully, again, to Sione, I don't think he's timed one correct run for about 9 rounds now on the edge. And that's because he's a prop. Look at what Samuela did, where he ran a short ball off Luai, and then at the last second, when he's got his defender isolated, bounces to the outside shoulder, makes half a break. That's what a good runner does for a half. And I just think we've been depleted in the edges. On Jerome's side as well, yeah, he may have Samuela, but he's got Hamasi, whose timing's out of place because he spent a whole preseason on the left wing rather than left centre. So I just think our edges, personnel-wise, are pretty poor. And then also coaching-wise, I think we need to get Buller in more shallower spots and better on that block shape.
You were scathing of our attacking performance against St George, talking about the block shapes. Did you see any change in the game plan or something that was better?
No, not at all. That's 22 points in 3 weeks. Yep. And like Rob said, 1 try from a grubber kick. I want to talk about New Zealand to show you how poor we were, okay? They went up Main Street from the get-go. They made sure they're going to isolate us and just target us right up the middle. Then as soon as we looked vulnerable, they shifted. Off kicks downfield that we did, they knew we'd be so compressed that they started running the ball early as opposed to rucking it up. They completely knew what we were going to do. It was like we had given our game plan to them on Monday last week, okay, and they knew how we were going to play, and they pulled our pants down. And to be fair, I know they only scored, 32 points or thereabouts. They should have had 64 points.
12 line breaks to 1.
It was, and I think after, I watched part of the replay today, and the commentary said after 18 minutes, it was 6 line breaks to 0.
Did have a sin bin in that time.
And that was an awful sin bin. Like, what's he thinking of there?
Bunty.
That was, and you know what? He undid a lot of his good work. He had 30 tackles, none missed. I think he ran for 70 odd metres, which isn't great, but that's what you get out of someone that's, in your squad player 21 to 30. Like, if he didn't do that sin bin, he actually detracted from his whole game. I thought he did all right generally. But yeah, look, Adel will rip me to shreds because he'll say, well, like Rob said, how do you know what they're doing behind closed doors, and how do you know what they're doing coaching-wise? And he's the ultimate defender of West Tigers concourse.
Not the last couple of weeks, sir.
I think he is. I want you to go hard at him tonight, by the way, and make sure he breaks down those plays because, I don't think he likes to break down the plays anymore because that's how poor we are. Okay, but all anyone can do is just judge the coaching on what you see in the 80 minutes. Because he's right. We don't know what Hodjo's doing or Benji's doing or John Morris is doing or anyone else. And maybe they are running block shapes all week. But all I can judge it on is what I see in the 80 minutes. It's up for the fans out there to make their decision. But Rob said earlier, we need to trust the coaching staff and all this sort of stuff with the off-season. Where I'm at right now is I believe everyone in the club, every single person from Sean down to the football department, everyone is 100% invested in trying their best to get us to where we need to be. My own personal view, I have zero faith in the whole organisation right now. Sorry. It's just how I have no faith in the coaches. I see this season falling to shit. I spoke to Jared Reedy on Friday on West Tigers Faithful. He likened it to the Tallis Farah thing where once that came out, we fell apart. We need to bounce back against Canterbury, and Canterbury are horrendous. Okay, they got towed up by
Still
Canberra.
Favourites to beat us.
Of course they'll be favourites, and they're probably going to be missing Stephen Crichton as well. But I just feel hopeless about things right now, and that's, I'll get over it, and yeah, I'm like Gary, I want to get to the end of the year and see who we sign in the off-season and go to next year, and I'm just glad we had a little bit of hope because they say enjoy the good times, because they don't last very long, and the bad times will go away. Well, when are the bad times are going to go away permanently? Because they seem to be with us every freaking year.
That lack of shape or structure in the halves, is that something where the boys talked about assistant coaches, Benzi's assistants? He's like to employ some of the boys, Hodjo and John Morris is there. Would you like to see potentially changes there if things don't improve over the next 8 weeks?
Well, I would have thought red zone attack's probably the one area where Benji doesn't need an assistant. Like, he's one of the best attacking players of all time.
Was it off shape?
Benji's attack? It wasn't necessarily off shape, but you look at the 09 flick pass to Ashford or whatever. We ran shape. Benji beats one defender, and then once he beats a defender, knows what to do. Switch me here, flick pass there, whatever. All I'm trying to say is I feel like he's such an attacking genius that he should be able to take that responsibility of the coaching himself. Like, if I said to you, who do you want coaching attack for a team you're coaching? John Morris or Benji Marshall? Just off name, not knowing experience. Who are you going to go with?
It's not really the head coach's role in most clubs. They're more the figurehead, aren't they?
And that's where I feel like Benji's very much like Wayne Bennett in the terms of like he can attract players, he can motivate them, or say all the right stuff. And yeah, we probably do need someone better than Hodjo or Brett Morris. John Morris or whoever it is. But I don't know who the answer is. Like, that's for the club to decide. I think Benji's made it pretty clear that he wants people he feels he can trust, and they're his mates. So,
got a pretty good attacking coach coaching the women's team at the moment. Let me tell you now, if he can do 2 jobs,
good one at South Logan, mate. As well.
I had one there too, but that's too close to home to keep touting that.
Go
on. I 100% feel we need some help, especially in attack. Brett Hodgson, I think I said last week that. Probably my favourite ever player, but what we're showing week after week is not good enough, especially in that red zone. I think a change needs to be made in that area. I can't trust our coaching staff going forward, and I would like to see a change. And that doesn't necessarily mean you get Brad Hodgson out of the club. You move him to a different role. If you want him there, you can keep him there. But we need some help with the attack in the red zone.
Is there anything Benji can do to change personnel or game plan in the next 4 to 6 weeks? Because we've got some winnable games coming up.
Not really. Like I said, our middles could be perfect. And then when we do shift, if you've got, duds on the outside, like if you've got a prop playing second row, an injured centre who you've been playing on the wing at centre, you got a 18-year-old kid playing left centre, like the attack's just not going to be great regardless. We just don't have the personnel on the edges. And that's the difference between the start of the season and what we've seen the last 8 weeks. When we were 5-2 at the start of the season, even with Jock in the halves, when we did run our shape, we still had our edges there. We had Samuela and KPP who just add that threat, offer so much. Then you did have Taylor May on one side. Even when Taruva was playing in the centre, it's just the threat of KPP and Adam's running game free him up when he's playing right centre.
I 100% agree with you, Junior, that the injuries have really hurt our red zone attack. There's not a doubt about that. We've had no edges for the last,
3 months.
Since Cronulla.
Yeah, so I have no doubt about that. The issue I have is when you get to that St. George game, we need to find a way to win that game, and we need to put something in place that allows us to strip a side that's won one game. St. George had won one game all year. That's where my major concerns come from. I fully, like that period we had, those injuries absolutely destroyed our chances of winning games. Not against St. George. But St. George is inexcusable for me.
I'll go further. With the wins, most of those wins are on effort. I don't think a lot of that is really good constructed play. And you just can't keep winning everything on effort.
Especially later in the year.
Later in the year, like the effort's going to run out. You've got to have a little bit of finesse, a little bit of, attack, just make it a little bit easier. Like every time you score a try, your players are getting a 2-minute break. There's a conversion attempt taking place. I just think everything we do, we've got to put like 200% into it to get a win. Newcastle, perfect game. What did Newcastle, do you think Newcastle effort-wise put in even 80%? No. But they got the win because they're prepared to try things. The modern game is about attack, and I just don't think Benji's philosophy is about that. I think Benji's just more the defensive side of things, and I think in the off-season, we've got to cover everything from A to Z, okay? And I feel like we cover like from A to M, okay? And we don't do from N to Z. And I think every aspect of rugby league needs to be covered. Like he's done a great job in terms of getting the players up. Our defence, I think there was a period there for a while, we had spent the most time in the opposition half, okay, out of all the teams in the comp, which means that you're winning the ruck, you're winning the battle, you're winning the line speed. So there's a lot of good things he's implemented. And I just want my criticisms to be known. It's nothing personal. I'm only judging it on what I see on the field. And like I said, they're all trying their best to get this team to where it needs to be. I'm just saying personally, I don't have faith anymore.
A couple of things. That stat of the most time in the red zone can be a little misleading.
In the other side, on the other side of the halfway line, not the red zone.
Okay. Because if you're not scoring tries, you're spending that whole set of 6 there. If the side's scoring a try on the third tackle, they're getting down there and getting back out. We don't get back out once we get down there. But I think Junior summed it up perfectly. In the red zone, we do not do anything to hold up the defensive line from sliding. Absolutely nothing. They just slide and we don't engage the line. We don't drop someone off. We don't do anything to hold them up. So what happens is Buller hits a gap and he makes those half breaks. How often is he making half breaks? If you hold that defender up a fraction of a second, that's not a half break. He's going clean through there. And that's the issue. The defenders are able to slide and those half breaks get closed down and we can't get through that gap. We've got to do something to hold up that defensive line. And I think Junior nailed it.
Yeah, well, you look at it, like someone said in the comments here, Rob Junior, our attack this year has been poor in the red zone. Yeah, no shit, Einstein. The reason the reason I highlight...
One of my mates probably
the reason I highlight the red zone rather than, the 80 metres before it, Atheist Dingo 6273, is because if you look at our attack from halfway in, say, round 4 against the Warriors... Adam gets the ball on the right edge, someone switches him, then there's a block shape with KPP in the right centre, and he dummies and goes straight through. And the reason he's able to go through is because before the block and sweep is run, someone switching him off, and as soon as he switches, there's a dummy pass on the inside. And what does that defender that's sliding across have to do? He has to stop and respect that someone is coming against the grain. Now, when we get to the red zone, when we run our shape, there's no one going back against the grain. There's no dummy pass. There's no turn back on the inside. The only time we ever turn it back on the inside in the red zone is when we've run people out of space, as in Adam's gone too far sideways or Jerome's gone too far sideways and the defense has read it and they've got up on the edge really well, and we just turn someone in on the inside for a hit up. We don't do it to score. We do it to like, oh shit, they got us, take a hit up and let's go the other way.
It's a bit depressing looking at the stats because like Newcastle, I think we were completing at 89% for the game, and even on Friday night, we were 21 of 21 completions in that first 30 minutes, and we had more possession. The offloads were back. We had 16 offloads to 3, but yeah, ugly line breaks, 12-1, and we can only, speaking on the attack.
There's one thing I'll agree with Benji about. We did have a really good period. I thought from the halfway mark of the first half to half time, we really fought hard. Like, could you believe we were only down 14-6 at half time? It felt like after 15 minutes, I'm not going to say the 80-0 stuff, but it felt like New Zealand were about to just have a training run. And it changed. So I give credit to the players for finding something. My criticism would be, and I'm going to leave Jerome Luai out of this and Tito Taruva out of this, where was that energy at the start of the game? Okay, because we were very flat and we didn't look like we were there.
Happened a few times this year, hasn't it?
It has happened a few times, but the only time it changed was after Hayward came on, and then we got a little bit of an extra burst after we got that try. And you could see from the celebration of the try, we talk about there could be a little bit of a disconnect in the team. You could see when Samuela scored, there was connect there. Like, a lot of the players came up and jumped all over the top of him and high fives and whatever. So I'm never going to accuse the team of not trying, but I just think, well, hang on. You know, we talk about, especially Benji talks about, we've got to play for the 80 minutes. We didn't click on till the 20th minute. It's like that first 20 minutes, there's 14 points against us. That could be the difference between winning and losing. And if we'd have scored first, maybe we might have had that energy earlier on and we could have kicked on. But I just thought we were thoroughly outcoached, and I don't know what the answer is now in the red zone. It's just getting to the point now. It's almost like, how do we fix the red zone? How do we play finals? How do we fix the red zone? How do we play finals? It just seems like a repetitive question every year, and nothing has changed. Like, our red zone attack has been rubbish from prior to Benji being our coach. Okay, we have had no red zone attack going back to the Michael Maguire days.
Some of the individual performances, we spoke about Hayward, but great to see Samuela out there. He just looks like a beast. I think you mentioned on Tuesday just how much bigger he is.
Yeah, he's a freak, and the way he's improved from last season, like, you could see his potential last season, but this season he's really like taken it up a step. Even defensively, I don't think he missed a tackle. I know he only played 46 minutes, but last year he was averaging just under 4 missed tackles a game. I thought, as much as he offered in attack, being a big body on the edge last year, he was a bit of a liability defensively. He's fixed that up this year. He's such a threat with his line running. And on top of it, it just shows how important him and KPP are, because the drop-off when those two are out with what we get in Suka, Sione, Seyfarth, whoever fills in, it's just immense. So
it was only his first game back, but I want to see him running onto the ball. I felt like he was catching the ball flat-footed and then taking off. I want to see him being put onto the advantage line, or his halves bringing him onto the ball. You watch a lot of that game, because I watched a bit of it today. He was catching the ball, and then through his sheer strength and athleticism, starting to dint the line and making an offload. But again, it's his first game back, and he's probably out of puff.
I haven't rewatched the game, but watching the game live, I thought he was getting early ball coming out of our half, and then I thought once we were in their half, that's our middle's job to kind of get a quick play the ball so that he can then run a line on the edge. Like, he can't just be running a line when we're 40 metres away from our line or halfway. I know what you're saying.
I'm just saying to run on the ball. I'm not saying to run a line. I'm just saying
get it and then take
get
off.
It with momentum, as opposed to catching it flat-footed and then taking off.
Some of the outside backs performances, anyone stand out on Friday night? You had Makasini. I thought he tried harder, but even Taruva, he's trying his ass off. But I think the commentator said he hasn't scored since the Newcastle game at home. That's probably a symptom of how bad our attack's been.
Yeah, and he had a period like that last year where he wasn't scoring many tries, but we're scoring one try a game, so you can't really fault a winger for that. I thought Makasini did try hard, but I still think he's got to be carrying an injury or a dent in confidence, because the way he engages defenders now is not what it was early in the season. You have a look at that trial game where he went down that wing and ran over two players. he goes into contact very timid now. I'm very concerned about that. Whether it's he got absolutely belted in that game we played against the Bulldogs earlier in the season at Combank. And I don't know whether he's come out of it physically damaged or whether it's mentally damaged and he's just a bit wary about hitting that line really hard. So I'm a little bit worried about him at the moment.
Actually, I don't know if I'll go to Rob for this one because it'd probably wind him up. But Terrell, I thought, was very quiet. I mean, he's been raging for the last couple of weeks that Benji's busted him, basically playing him 80 minutes and whatnot. But I think he only played 57 minutes, and even his first stint, he looked a little bit off to me.
Yeah, well, you can tell we're related. I 100% agree. I think when you ask a prop of Terrell's size to play 80 minutes each week, I mean, I know last season he showed he can play 80 minutes, but like what we saw last season, towards the back half of the season, that those performances kind of dropped a little bit. And, you know, we have had the injury toll, so we have had to ask him to play more minutes without having Twal to rely on in the period that he was injured as well. But I also think the issue with Terrell, a lot of people were saying for the last month when I was watching the pod, you know, in the comments, Terrell's getting in the way when we get down and we're in an attacking spot. He's getting in the way too much and whatever. I think because Twal wasn't there, Terrell's kind of been trying to play as that lock as well. So I think his job's gone from, you know, this. I need you to do ABC each game as a prop. And then because of the injuries we've had, it's like, well, now you're not just playing like a prop. Now I need you to play like a prop up until they're 20. And then in their 20, I kind of need you to be a serviceman to Luai and whoever else. I think that's a little bit confusing for him too.
I thought it was a very un-Terrell-like performance on Friday night. I think it was, 75 metres or something, really unusual from him. And even having a look at that first try that was scored, Terrell was caught out there and really unusually caught out. It looked like...
There's a huge gap between him and Jerome there.
Yeah, and it looked like a lazy prop effort that you get from a guy who has played 75 minutes in the game already. But it was
he was in no man's land. Was he meant to be like in the middle, or was he standing on an edge? Like, I mean, where was he? He was like two-man. He wasn't even... The spacing was awful. But like since that Penrith game where a couple of tries were scored against him, if you go from Penrith to now... There's been more tries scored on Terrell in the last 8 weeks or so than there was in a year and a half. And you're right, he was playing big minutes early last year and he was playing sensationally. There's a big difference. He's coming off between 40 and 50 minutes for the Roosters, mainly off the bench, to having to do that, you know, for the first 5 or 6 games is fine. But this season, he's coming off averaging 70 minutes last year. I love the bloke. I think he carried that whole pack on his back last year. So I've got, even now when he's playing poorly, I'm not knocking him. I just think he's had the legs taken out of him and he's almost like a bit of a pinball on the field. He's not even, when he hits the line now, you're not getting those offloads that he'd regularly get and hitting that line with impetus. He's hitting the line a bit softer now because he's got to pace himself. I just think he needs the off-season as quickly as anyone. And I know he wants the big minutes and he's trying, but he's just watered down, for want of a better term.
But there's a balance there as well. He's not a prop that you're ever going to be playing 40 minutes, I don't think. But there's no reason why the 50 to 55 is a lot more manageable for him.
Correct.
It's still good minutes for a prop. So I just think he needs to get that balance right.
Was there any standout in that pack? At least I checked the stats. Fanua had good numbers off the bench. I think 160 odd metres.
Yeah, he was my standout. I thought Samuela being back, like straight away, you can see his class in his return. I thought Samuela was great and probably our most threatening player in attack. But I thought Pole, his impact off the bench was really, really good.
Let's do 3-2-1. Senior, you go first.
All right, what have I got here? Well, speak of the devil, I've got Fanua Bole. 164 metres, 26 tackles, only 2 missed. No other West Tigers forward cracked the 100-metre mark.
He's been great off the bench. Do we need to go out and get a starter with Terrell and keep him there?
Yeah, he needs to be. He's a perfect bench player. And you know what? I think there will come a time when we're in that red zone. Fanua Bole will go over for a try.
His footwork at the line is outstanding. And against a tiring defence, that footwork on the line is absolutely devastating to teams. So 100% he should be coming off the bench, and we do need someone else.
What about Moses Leota? Would he cost too much money?
He would probably cost too much money, but, and I only say but, did you see how he played against Parramatta last night? It's the first decent game I've seen him play for the Roosters in a long time, and probably because he is looking for another club. My 2 points goes to Jared Hayward. I thought the team lifted when he came on the field. I accept that even physically, he's actually not ready for first grade. And
Nowhere near it.
That's how talented he is. Because as you'll all see, front on, I mean, he's going to have some defensive issues, as you would being that size. He probably needs 2 off seasons to be right, but fantastic for him. And I'm going to give my 1 point to Taruva. I thought he was the pick of our backs. He had 1 offload. He had 127 metres. He didn't miss a tackle. And from pre-game, when you saw them run out on the field, he was full of beans. He was bouncing. He was ready to go. He wanted to play. I think one of the reasons he hasn't scored a try for a while too is he's probably played at least 4 or 5 games in the centres as well. We need to take that into consideration.
Just backtrack on that one because you mentioned, were you talking about Spencer Leniu or Moses Leota?
Oh, sorry.
I've lost
I
track
beg
of
your
how many
pardon.
people the
Were you
Roosters
mentioning Leota?
Yeah,
I
mentioned Leota, but
apologise.
then
I was mentioning Spencer Leniu. I apologise. Sorry, mate.
I thought the Roosters must
I
have
get
signed
those names confused, mate. This is
either or. If you had
this
a
is
choice
what happens
between
when
the
you're
two.
not. That's what happens when you're 90 years
Who's
of
more
age, mate.
elite?
No,
Moses?
at least you didn't call someone Marmalade.
Yeah.
Kenny Marmalade.
If I had to take,
I've done a few
If I had to
howlers over
take
the
one of the two for our next game against Canterbury, I'm taking Leota because he can do it. But if I was taking one of those two for next year, I'm taking Spencer Leniu because he's got upside, and I think Leota's 34 or something like that. We don't need another, maybe a better version of James Tarmo coming to our club for the retirement package. We got to stop paying some big money, and maybe if the blokes below in the pathway system can actually identify freaking big athletic forwards, and develop them instead of having to steal them from Penrith, we might get somewhere.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I got 3 to Samuela. I've spoken about how good I thought he was all game. I've got 2 for Pole, and then I gave 1 to Jared Haywood. I thought it was a really good debut for him. I know you guys think he's probably not physically ready, and I do agree that it's still early to bring him into first grade. But just seeing what he did in that game makes me think if he had a filled in instead of Tristan Hope for some of those games earlier in the year, probably get a couple of wins. Seriously, man.
I went to Lidcombe yesterday and Tristan Hope was absolutely diabolical. Really, really poor yesterday. Shout out to Shane. I went with the king of Lidcombe yesterday and I was treated a bit nicer.
Did his beloved Magpies win?
No.
Oh, okay.
My 3-2-1, Fanua Pole was absolutely outstanding. Jared Haywood, great debut. Should be very proud of it. His whole family should be really impressed with what he put out there yesterday. And my 1 went to Sam. I thought Sam coming back was really strong. Very disappointed to see him come off injured, and hopefully we can get him back out on the field soon.
All right, Rob, the week ahead, we'll preview the Bulldogs on Tuesday, playing them on the Moon on Saturday night. That's what I call iChoice Stadium. I won't be out there, that's for sure. But I don't want to tell how fans to think because they can think however they like, but what would you like our fans to approach the rest of the season? Do we still have to try and stay positive, or would you just have to
or go
get the
Eddie Otto?
shits, with what's going on at the moment?
From the bottom of my heart, I think all you fans, I want you to just do whatever it takes to make you cope. I'm not going to tell people how to feel. If you want to get angry and kick the toys out of the cot, then so be it. You want to rip your membership up, so be it. You want to stay united and go get membership next year, so be it. I mean, what we should be saying is just hang in there, but like you say, we get told this same story every year. Next year's going to be different. Next year's going to be different, and we seem to fall apart around this time and beyond every year. I will say our season's normally over at the end of May, so to have it over early July is an improvement. I'm a bit like Gary. I don't know if we're going to win any more games, but
We'll win 1 or 2
But
more,
what I
I
would
reckon.
say, I think what's more important than any of us fans, I think Benji's got a job of keeping this group united and trying to get them to maintain some belief. And I don't know how you do that when you've just lost to the worst team nearly in this decade in St. George. God, how many teams have only won 2 games in a year?
yeah.
We've been pretty bad.
Have we ever won?
previous
I
years.
think we've
They're
won
not-
4 games in those years.
We
haven't
had a 3.
They're
We
not,
had a 3,
They're
you know?
not. They're not worse than our wooden spoon teams.
Nah.
Even though we won 4.
yeah, I agree.
Our wooden spoon teams were way worse. Look at differential and everything else.
Yeah,
Sure,
fair
they'll
enough.
say
Okay.
So, Rob,
Take your word for it.
if supporters are allowed to do whatever they need to cope, does that mean Eddie's allowed to rage bait you to get a reaction?
I've been on my best behaviour.
You're right. You
tonight.
actually are allowed to rage bait me. I'm going to do what Rob does though, and I'll just leave the group, and you just add
all
me
right.
back in when we've got a podcast.
Gary
to come up.
knows how to deal with me now.
Yeah,
He
just
ignores
ignore
me.
him.
I think there's just a
ignore
time
him.
and a place. Like now, you can actually say to me, you know what? Okay, I think our season's over. We can't play finals. But when you're telling me at 5 and 2 that you know what, it'll be nice if we make the top 12. Okay,
Oh, I was
when
right,
we're-
wasn't I?
It's not the point. It's not the point.
care
You're
what the
just
point
being
was, I was
negative.
right.
You're being negative when we're 5 and 2. Like that's just
Junior, do you
ridiculous.
have any predictions for the rest of the season?
Pain.
Don't really care because I
can't
feel
play
like
finals.
season's over. I just want to beat the Bulldogs. Playing the Bulldogs is always my grand final. I'll probably have a couple $100 on the Bulldogs just to help me mentally cope in case we do lose.
That's called an emotional hedge. That.
Yeah,
We've
I
done that
think
before.
my prediction, but I've got a funny feeling Jerome's not going to be named in the halves. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big call.
Has he played his last game?
I think he might have. I think.
What? So they're just going to sit him for the rest of the
I
year?
don't think so.
Well, I,
You can't
I,
put him in
I think
reserve
the
grade.
way Benji spoke in the press conference when he was asked about Luai's performance, rather than saying, "Oh, I thought he was one of our better ones" or whatever he's done in previous presses, he sort of said, "Yeah, I think a lot of the players in our team need to have a look at the performance." So usually he would just jump to his defense where he didn't. I feel like they're a bit off. I don't know what to expect, but
So from
Toa's
captain
injured.
to dropped.
I think so, but Toa's injured, so that might cause a bit of a dilemma because the way Adam played last week, with how many times he ran the ball, how bad our shape was, all that sort of stuff, I feel like Adam's got to play right centre. Are we done with Taruva at right centre? Like, who's going to play
He
there?
might go back to
But
there.
so either Taruva or Adam's got to be right centre. There's no one
And
else. to
Solomon
play.
Savannah
Sakura-
comes into the wing.
Solomon Sakura scored again yesterday.
What's he like
Yeah, but-
defensively? So I had this
sorry.
chat with Jared on Friday.
He does make some errors defensively, but he is the leading try scorer in New South Wales Cup.
Look, I've never watched it, but I looked at a cup stat sheet the other week, and Heath Mason had fucking 4 tries. Like, it's cup.
Yeah, but he is actually leading the try scoring.
Fair enough.
So
Like, I can't-
it's not just
I'll
4
reserve
in a
judgment.
game.
I haven't seen him play. I hope he's
He
good
runs a
if he's
decent
gonna be
line,
in.
but yeah, he does have some issues defensively.
I don't care who plays there. I just
What
got
a
to beat the
bludger of a
Bulldogs.
game that's going to be next week.
What?
Us and Canterbury.
That's
like,
the grand final.
Just, like, there'd be like maybe 20 points scored, wouldn't there?
Who
Hopeless.
knows? Who knows?
Two hopeless
What about
teams.
the captaincy? What do you do? Because I'd play Jerome. You want to play your strongest team. You want to win as many games as possible. But what do you do with the captaincy? Because Tim Sheen's made that call in 2006 when Scott Prince was leaving the club the next year to take it off him and give it to Brett Hodgson. What do you do for the rest of the
You
year?
play Jerome Luai at number 6 and you do take the captaincy off him. And I'm not,
And you
I'm
give it
not
to-
blaming. That's for Benji to decide. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know who's the most respected person in that
Alex Twile.
playing group. Well, has Alex got
Adam
the voice
Dewey?
though? I don't know. I don't know.
Look,
Adam will want it.
if the discussion about possible issues there that was briefly raised earlier,
I think that might. I think it
would
might
be a
happen though.
Massive call.
Because you can't see Jerome going to those press conferences. That just opens the press up to ask
Well, he can
400,000
do
questions.
what he can do. What Benji
That's
said.
even
I'm
worse
not going to
than-
answer these questions because that's what Benji said. He goes, "There'll be a time and a place for this," which turned out to be Saturday morning when we did officially announce we were releasing him.
Well, it'll be Saturday morning by the time I start with Coach if we keep going, boys. So thank you very much. Good to see you again, Junior. We'll be back on Tuesday afternoon to preview the Bulldogs game. Stick around for Claw's Coach's Report.